Good evening, everybody. I'm Philip Callen. I'm the general manager of the Workshop Theater, and welcome to Words Matter on behalf of Invisible Hands Delivers. Beautiful night of performances and plays. Just a fantastic evening. We're thrilled. I'm pleased to welcome. Let's see. I'm going to say across the top, but that's probably not going to make any difference to anybody else. We have Liam Elkind, who is the executive director of Invisible Hands Deliver. Two of our playwrights, Franky Gonzalez, who wrote When the Sun Touches You, the Monsters Die, Christina, who wrote Old Furniture, and one of our actors, Victor Williams from Old Furniture, is here. Thank you all for being here. And I think, here comes Thomas Coté, the artistic director of the Workshop Theater, just in time. He was busy putting on his coat and forgot the tie.
I go around like this all day, Phil. I go around the house, you know.
Thanks everybody for spending just a little bit of time here. We just wanted to touch briefly on the work that Invisible Hands does and on the work that was done tonight in Words Matter. And I guess I'd throw it first to Liam. What for our audience, can you tell the folks a little bit about what Invisible Hands does in, well, it's not just New York City. I think it's a wider region than that, but go ahead.
Absolutely. And first, let me say thank you to all of you whom I can see and all of those who I can't, writers, producers, directors, stage managers, actors. I am so grateful to the theater community. The theater community has been hit so hard by this pandemic, but your stories remind us that we can carry our stories forward, and they remind us of our shared humanity. And that is both through your words that you've written, but also through your deeds. The fact that you are willing to put on this immense production as a fundraiser for a startup nonprofit is an honor, and it is humbling, and it is a continual reminder of the power of this community to pull together and to pull through. So thank you. I'm reminded of one of the lines from one of these plays: "We may be cracked, but we're not broken." And I am reminded of that every day. So thank you. Invisible Hands is a nonprofit that was founded. It's a little more than a year old. It was founded as I was coming home from college, as COVID was beginning to besiege New York City, and I was feeling deeply useless. My dad is a doctor. I was watching him go into work every day, working these 19-hour shifts to help people out, and feeling like, oh my God, here am I, sitting on my butt watching Netflix. There's got to be more I can be doing to help out my community. And I didn't know what that would be until I saw a friend of mine, actor and producer Simone Policano, check her out too, who posted on Facebook and said, does anybody know of a service I could volunteer for to deliver food and medicine to the elderly and those who can't get out of their homes right now? And people were commenting on that post, sounds like a fantastic idea. Let me know if you hear of an organization like that. Nobody seemed to know what that was. So I reached out and we said, what if we made that organization? And so we looped in with a third friend, Healy Chait, who's not an actor, but is also awesome. Check her out too. And we passed around flyers and put out the call to action on social media, built a website, and 72 hours later, 1,300 people had signed up to volunteer. And so ever since then, we have been working to bring people together, to deliver food to those who need it most, to deliver medicine. In the run-up to the 2020 election, we delivered ballots for people. We're trying to do the same thing in the run-up to the municipal elections on June 22nd. Remember to vote. And so, our mission has been to deliver essentials to those in need. And we've been really excited to, as you said, Philip, to expand our service regions to New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and we're looking to continue to build. But fundamentally, it's about bringing essentials to those in need. And one of those essentials is community. And you have shown us all tonight that even all of us in our little Zoom boxes, wherever we may be, none of us are alone, and we have each other. And when you need someone, all you have to do is reach out. I have seen firsthand that there are literally thousands of people out there ready and excited to catch you. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but if I could just share one story. I got an email from a woman who lived in Michigan, and her father lived in New York, and he had been diagnosed with COVID. He was in his 80s, and he had no one to turn to. And he was scared to go to the grocery store because he didn't want to get anybody else sick. And so she heard about us on Good Morning America, and she called us and submitted a request. And his volunteer delivered to him each week and dropped off groceries, dropped off medicine. And after completing the deliveries, they would sit on either side of this guy's door, and they would talk about their lives and their fears and their joys, and they would share stories. And he passed away from COVID-19. But his daughter wrote to us and said, although my father has passed away, your help was not in vain. And the connection and the relief and the reassurance that this volunteer was able to provide meant the world to him and to me, who couldn't be there for my own father in his final days. So to me, that's the power of service that's within all of us. And this past year has been immensely difficult in so many ways, but it has also been a reminder that we are at our best when we are together. And it is only by pulling together that we'll pull through. So thank you to the Workshop Theater for showing us that power of community once again.
I could jump in, Liam. I love that you're talking about the community. I was curious, how do you connect? How does Invisible Hands, an organization, connect both with the people that are being served, but also your volunteer? I know you have an app, I believe, that volunteers. If I wanted to volunteer, how would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. If you'd like to volunteer, please go to the App Store or the Google Play Store. We have an app, Invisible Hands. You can also visit us online at invisiblehandsdeliver.org. There are all kinds of ways to get involved. If you'd like to complete deliveries, extra credit if you have a car and you're able to drive from pantries to deliver to people who are experiencing food insecurity right now. We also can have remote volunteers if you want to work in our call center and interface directly with people in need, or in our dispatch center and help relay some of those requests to the delivery volunteers. We have opportunities that run the gamut. And to answer your question, one of the things that we've really tried to prioritize is the fact that people come for the mission, right, of food insecurity, or of fighting against this social divide, or of delivering to the elderly or people stuck at home, but they stay for the community that they form themselves. And one of the most powerful things when it's been a tiring day or an exhausting year, which it has been to look at the stories told by the volunteers in this channel that we have called Job Well Done, where people share about, they completed a delivery and the person they delivered to left them a book or a little box of chocolates or some flowers as a thank you. And some of the people we deliver to, aren't able to complete deliveries because they're immunocompromised or whatever, but then they volunteer remotely for us. And so it's really become much more about that notion of mutual aid, that we all have something to offer one another and we all have something to receive from one another. It's not about charity, right? It's about community solidarity. Yeah. And that is how we prioritize that. And that's what we're hoping to do moving forward.
That's great.
I think about, I was thinking about this during each of the pieces and this desperate struggle to overcome loneliness. And I feel like COVID has robbed people of so much, robbed people of family members. So many people have died alone, been sick alone. It has forced us all in. With an organization like yours that is committed, not just committed to getting things to people, but committed to connecting with people, even on a very basic level, to open that door. It's beautiful.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting us to participate in this. It is truly an honor. We are a new upstart organization, and to have the support of an organization like Workshop Theater, check them out too, workshoptheater.org, is truly meaningful. And I will be first in line when your doors open again. And I am excited to buy my tickets and be there cheering everybody on.
Well, I'll tell you, Liam, I've worked at other nonprofits. If somebody else, any other nonprofit had 1,300 people sign up in the first 72 hours, people would be like, what's the special sauce? So it's impressive. And like I said, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'd love to pivot a little bit and talk to our artists here, and talk a little bit about the prompt of the word touch. And just for the writers, let's start with both Christina and Franky first, and Victor will bring you in a sec. But talk a little bit about how the prompt works for you. In general, if you've worked in other situations with a prompt, this one specifically, was this a story you already kind of had floating in your head, and the prompt sort of helped you coalesce it into something? Or is it something you wrote you just thought about it after the prompt and went from there? I guess, Christina, we can start with you. I think you're muted. Is she muted? Phil, can we see?
I don't have her muted. Christina, is your mic?
Is your mic? aloud?
No, she's not muted.
Okay, she's going to fix it. So we'll jump over to Franky and then poke around with Christina. We'll come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. When the sun touches you, the monsters die really kind of conformed more to the prompt itself, the prompt of touch. It was an idea that was kind of swimming around in my head for a while. And when I received the prompt, that's when it clicked. It's like, oh, wait a minute. When the sun touches, yeah, that kills monsters. That's what kills monsters. And the sun is the sunrise. And so I kind of wrote it in this like really quick burst, because just the prompt itself is it evoked it for me, because really that's all we are looking for, is we're looking for someone to touch. It's not in the literal physical sense. We're looking for some kind of connection with another person, the meeting of two souls, the reconnection of ourselves with nature, the just being able to make it, and be able to hug with each other. It was just getting that prompt kind of filled in the gaps for me in the play that I wanted to write, that I had failed to get started on or threw away earlier drafts of. So yeah, that's really where it came from for me.
That's great. And what I love particularly about your play is the fact that it's a story that Sol tells his story to Idad's little brother, and its storytelling is what also, I mean, he uses a metaphor, as you just did, of the sun, but it's really the storytelling is what ultimately helps the boy get through the night.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a beautiful, it's another nice little layer of meaning and metaphor around the words themselves.
Yeah, to me, stories have always been the way by which I comfort myself. Whenever I would feel down, or whenever I would feel any kind of just any adverse emotion, stories just came, and the story of the monsters is something I made up for myself one time, and I'll whenever he wants to hear it, I'll tell my son that story, because it really did feel that way, and I think that story just for me, it's just that I'm sorry, my son just said something. He's like, Dad, he's like, oh yeah. But no, just the storytelling is the thing that does touch my soul, and to be able to utilize that in this prompt was a really, really wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that I can finally get that story out on paper. Ultimately, it was so I'm very grateful to Workshop Theater, to Invisible Hands, everyone for allowing me this chance and opportunity to make this happen. I'm so grateful to get it out of my system.
Well, thank you. It's in our system now, so that's a good thing. Christina, are you with the sound?
I think so.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We have
Sorry.
Technology.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm Kilimanjaro when somebody comes on.
Different speakers, so if I was on a different one. Yeah, I think for me, your prompt just gave me the idea, really. I didn't want to do anything literal about touch. It reminded me of my grandmother, who was born in the 1900s, how she would talk about people who were mentally ill, and there weren't really words for that at the time, so they would say they were touched. But then I also wanted to talk about mental illness in the Black community during such a crisis point like the pandemic, with two brothers who were somewhat estranged and who were grappling with really the words to talk about what was happening with them during a time where we just didn't really have a lot of words for what any of us were experiencing for the first time. So I wanted to play with the word on multiple levels. And so I was really grateful to be able to work not just with the actors, but finally with your company, and also to do the work that Invisible Hands is doing to help as well.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, we had with Victor and Keith both, we had such a nice discussion around the use of that word in mental illness. Here's a case where a word sort of is a euphemism, and I don't know that we're probably going to use it. I loved when I read it because it was, oh wow, and it really comes all the way at the end, even though we sort of understand where it's going to go. But and touched by God, I think Victor, your character says, when he was a kid, he thought it meant you were touched by God, but it means something, and it's just a beautiful in a way of looking at a word and sort of, is it a reduction? So much of our life right now, people are using words to reduce, right? And the reductive, we can give it a label. It's this word. It's a label. We don't have to think about it anymore. And what I love about an evening like this is we're all kind of slowing down, and nuance becomes, and Victor and Keith's characters, I was saying, this is my family. I have 3 older brothers, and aside from the use of the word touch, it's the nuance of that relationship and the ability to speak and not speak. And it was a great discussion that we had. Victor, is there anything you want to chime in or jump in with?
What was interesting is I wasn't aware when I wasn't aware until after we did when we recorded Old Furniture that there was that the theme was touch. And so when we did it, like what grandma calling people touched, it sort of triggered something for me, which we talked about in rehearsal, in terms of, in my family, it was something that was thrown around, to sort of quickly to sort of explain what, cousin so-and-so was going through, and what grandma Maddie was, dealing with, is like, oh, she's just touched, and she's touched, and he's touched. And then it was so casual. It just something about seeing it within, again, I literally hadn't heard the phrase, I don't think, since I was a child, since I was like maybe a teenager. And so it just sort of shocked me. It was like, right, that's what grandma used to always say. She called everybody touched. And also sort of just how casually it was, sort of like everyone just sort of, we're not going to talk about it any further. It's like, they're touched. What's wrong with them? They're touched. That's it. That's all you need to know. And so just sort of knowing that, and then seeing the sort of the theme throughout the evening tonight of how it means something different from story to story. It was, I don't know, it was just really, it was quite jarring, and yet within each piece, but specifically as the one I worked on with Old Furniture, was sort of like, all right, it's like I was sort of jarred by the meaning of touched in the context of this piece, and yet there was also this effort, unbeknownst to Dale, who I played in the beginning, that there wasn't, in fact, like an effort on both of their parts to touch each other, and to reconnect and to make contact. So it was sort of like the unspoken touch that these two brothers are trying to attain, and then like the touch that had been a part of their family history and their lives, that sort of in a way kept them apart. Almost like that. What do you call that when the two magnets like are at opposite ends and they
polarized.
Yeah. So it was fascinating to sort of, to walk in and not realize or sort of be fully aware of the full sort of thread of the touch theme throughout the evening, and then to see it all tonight was fascinating.
Oh, cool.
Just one last thing for our writers. So you get this email out of the blue from either Philip or myself, I can't remember who, and here's this thing, and this is what we're offering. Do you think about it? Do you just say, I don't care, I don't have a story, I'm just I'm saying yes and I'll come up with a story? Or do you take a little minute and say, well, let me think if I've got something I can start working with? I'm just curious as to how impulsive, you might be with accepting something like this.
Oh, me first? I said yes immediately. I saw it was from Phil. He had asked me once last year, and I just started a job, so I couldn't do it.
Right.
But he emailed me about it again, and I saw who the organization was and the kind of work they did, and I was like, absolutely. And I'll think about the idea later. But
you're brave. That's great. How about you, Franky?
Oh man, I was reached out to you from you actually, Thomas, and I was just like, oh yeah, for sure, let's do this. It wasn't even one of those things where I even thought about it. I was like, all right, let's do this. I didn't even finish the email. I was like, let's write a play. Absolutely. For me as a writer, I actually do really well under when people ask me for something or they need something by X, Y, or Z time. It's just if I'm left to my own designs, I'm usually there writing for 3 years on the same play. But when it's like, this is the prompt, this is it, go for it. It's like, all right, let's do this. So jumping in was really quick for me. And the other thing is the play was kicking around in my head anyway. So this was a great reason for me to just get it finally out there and tackle the subject that had been sitting with me for years. So yeah, no, it was an immediate yes. The moment I got the ask, I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. Y'all offered me $10 or like a corn dog or something. I'd be like, yeah, let's do. All right, a corn dog, I'll do it for a corn dog.
Damn it, Philly would have done it for a corn dog.
I mean, yeah.
Check your mail, Franky. There's a corn dog coming from UPS.
Corn dog.
Well, I want to say that hello. Hi, how are you? Hello. I just want to say that I think we're all aware of the primacy of stories, right? I think the world seems to be so aware of storytelling now, and that stories matter, and that how things are told, and certainly we see that, frankly, as a weapon in a lot of respects, but also as a way of finding truth. And one of the things that I responded to, and Liam just jumped right on this when we just talked to you just now, was I love the story of Invisible Hands, and it's very aware of how that story is being told and how they're being presented to the world. And it's a great story. It's a great hook. Facebook post, and 3 days later we have 1,300 people. That's a great story. It's a fun story. And this is our second Words Matter event. And the other thing, and that's now 8 writers, 16, 19, or 17 actors, a couple stage direction readers, and the spirit of which is really, when we had this idea, was, can we do good with this, in some fashion? It's very simple. We're not trying to change the world. We're just adding a little piece to it. And the spirit of the three of you and all the other actors and the other writers has just been so generous and such, and for me, I get to witness it. I get to hang out with everybody for about 2 hours. And it's just such a, how much fun do we have in these when we just rehearsing and taping it? We're just doing this work. We're exploring this language. We're exploring these situations and these scenarios. And it's just, it's been a very loving kind of situation. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of it, and really thankful to the artists, to the 2 organizations, New Sanctuary. That's another organization everybody should check out, which was our first Words Matter in the fall. The work they're doing around immigration and helping those folks is amazing. But I just want to thank everybody. Philip, you too, Philip. I thank you. Because the generosity and the spirit behind it and the impulse behind it is really what we should all be thinking about, what we should all be doing, when we can and where we can. So that's all I've got. I just want to say
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for being here tonight. Liam, Franky, Christina, Victor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a part of this project. Christina, I'm glad I came back and gave it another go. We were trying to remember that it had been, I don't know, roughly like 12 years since we had seen each other, but never forget. And want to remind people, other folks are going to be seeing this, but people can still see and donate. They can still donate to Invisible Hands Delivers through our website, and they can still watch the performances through Monday night at 6:59 p.m. when the whole system shuts down. And yeah, let's thank you all for a great night. Thank you for your talents and your time and your commitment.
And it is a pay what you can. So please share this. If you're listening and watching, please share this with your communities. Yep. As I said earlier at the beginning speech, whatever we can do, every dollar counts, every penny. It really does add up. So please consider. There's no barrier to entry, as they like to say.